Hello, this is Lisa Lee and welcome to our Sunday enrichment reading. I'm really excited about this. So today we're actually going to be looking at spiritual validity, and that's an interesting topic to come through, but it's something that has been kind of like reverberating because I've been seeking, like, with through meditation, like, what is this message going to be? Like, what are we looking at? Like, how do we, like, is it the community like message that I was expecting last time? And the answer that I got was numbers. and one sort of like pronounced statement along the lines of the validity of your spirituality and like what it means to feel like it's valid. And I know that sounds like oh yeah, like duh, obvious, like it's valid, but I think that there's this epigenetic kind of a phobia that we all sort of have around the idea of feeling free with our spirituality. You know, there's been a lot of like religious trauma, and beyond religious trauma there is just the conditioning of the world writ large, kind of like against this notion of like any spirit, like that spirit is valid, that spirituality has this validity. I mean, there's been a lot that's been working in opposition to that, both like, in secular and like spiritual sort of realms, places. And in spiritual places, I'm talking about like a church that says like, this is what spirituality looks like. That isn't valid, whatever you're doing. So the invalidating of one's like natural, like psychic intuition is something that happens really, really young in a lot of different ways. And it's important to think about what it means to chart our way back on this, because I do feel like we're coming into some change. So today on my way to yoga, a car in front of me like beeped and like, to get my attention, like asked me to like roll my window down. And when I did, they were like, your brights are on. And of course this is like, this is the morning. Like it wasn't a lack of, daylight. So I don't know how that even happened, but the license plate was 777. And then as I pulled into yoga, the license plate right across from me in the parking lot, and this is all gospel, was 555. And twice on my way home, I saw 444. And I was like, what the heck is, like, what is going on? To say that like 555 has been aggressively stalking me would be an understatement. That would be, like everywhere I go, I see 555. So I'm very used to like having like very nervous anticipation and not knowing like, what is it? It's always something. But this time, there's this notion of 777 this morning. That's a number that I really associate with wisdom, and I also associate it with ascension, and I absolutely associate it with growth. And we're talking about the Hermit here and the Detective. I like these two cards a lot. So in the light attribute that says great powers of observation and intuition, desire to seek out the truth. So we're talking about spiritual validity as like a topic of like, what do we do? How valid are we? Like, what does anything actually mean? Like, we're all here. We've all had these experiences. We've all been sort of feeling our way, through the room in the dark. Like, what is this? But how do we really hold a level of conviction about it? And so it's interesting that like the first two cards to come out, in response to the number 777, this is a growth, wisdom, elevation, is this Hermit and this Detective. Now I want to look at the light attributes, and then we're going to pull cards on the shadow attributes. In the light attribute, seeking solitude to focus intently on your inner life serves personal creativity. Like, this is something you should feel really happy to be with yourself. Like, that should be, and I think for some people, it's not easy, but for others, like, being with themselves is their favorite place to be because it's just, that's the right. But with Detective here being about great powers of observation and intuition and desire to seek out the truth, like, this is feeling like and it's actually coming, like Spirit saying, just keep going. It's feeling like a raw nerve. So when there's been like experiences in your life where you've dealt with any kind of injustice, there's like a raw nerve there. And that raw nerve can hit right on our spiritual gifts, which is kind of a weird thing to come through. But I think that when we talk about spiritual validity, when we talk about what's the difference between a projection and like a message, you know what I mean? Like, what's the difference of like, you know, something like spiritually like happening and like it's the imagination. Like this is where we have like this murkiness. And so this murkiness of like what is the ground that we can stand on, influenced by a psychic ability that's going to give you incredible intuition and powers of observation with like no place to put it, because we don't have this place in our world for these types of gifts. I just want to feel this. I only keep feeling this for a second. It's like really interesting. A raw nerve on top. Okay, so there's this thing of defending yourself, or you know, that's this notion of this raw nerve. Having these beautiful powers of observation and intuition means that you're just going to know stuff, and the stuff that you know isn't always pretty, because the world is a really, really messy place. It's going to put you in a kind of othering sometimes. And sometimes it can put you in a position of feeling so effing sensitive that it's hard to sort of like, you know, be in your body. The desire to seek the truth is what's calling you out. And it's just like I'm seeing somebody like, it's slow. There's nothing terrifying about this. We're doing this in a slow way. Because seeking out truth at this point means facing a world of like dishonesty, and because in the shadow attribute of detective, we have voyeurism and falsifying information. We have the desire to seek out the truth, and then we have the ends justify the means. And so we're walking and talking and living in a world of the ends justify the means, which is terrifying, because it dismisses the value of each and every individual human life. And that is a terrifying place to be. So we're going to look at the valid fear around what it means to seek solitude for personal creativity and that focus on your inner life, but also understand that this part of desire to seek out the truth, it also means that we're overcoming any level of withdrawal from society out of fear or negative judgments. And I do this, like I say this with this caveat. The caveat that I say this with is, it is legitimately scary to sort of like be doing anything like creatively boisterous at this time. And I use the word creatively boisterous because I can't find a better way of saying like authentic, presence, creative, like fearless, powerful, like introspective, you know, able to communicate really well, like all of the things that your best self is. We're under layers of like protection, figuring it out, like having a sense of what's going on around us, and our intuition is crackling with like something's going on, you know what I mean? And so what we're looking at here in terms of like why it's important for you to really begin to step into spiritual authority, you know, what it means for the divine feminine to rise, and for there to be a balance with the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and spirituality is we have to restore the balance for the divine feminine spirituality, the goddess, you know what I mean? And so doing that means stepping into that role, being representative of that in the world in one way or another, whether it's to your kids or to the people around you. Representing the divine feminine is representing the feminine aspect of God. And so that's what the calling, you know what I mean? Like when we talk about the messenger and when we talk about the Messiah, that the Messiah means the messenger, and the messenger is each and every one of you. And the message that you're coming with is, in some way or another, I represent this creative, abundant, divine feminine energy and spiritual authority. And this is what the representation of that looks like on earth. So that's like a really tall order. Like, so when we say like, let's begin to sort of climb out of this cave of like ambiguity about spiritual validity, you know, what is and what isn't, what about me can I trust, what can I trust, and start to sort of have like, we're going to creep out with the knowledge that there's some traps, and I want to look at what the traps are. I want us to sort of be fully armed and fully ready. So let's go into this. I encourage you to take a couple of deep breaths, because I dove right in and I don't know how, I don't know if we're like ready, you know what I mean? So I encourage you to take a couple breaths, to get some water if you have to pause this, and something comfy, because we're going to be picking this apart for a little while. I don't know how long, but I'm here for the course. So let me keep going. I want to look at this voyeurism, falsifying information, because I see voyeurism as being what humanity has developed a relationship to, instead of a relationship to each other, is what I see as voyeurism in this particular aspect. And what I see as falsifying information is the narrative being set for the public, and narrative, you know what I mean? Like, that's where we have all this manipulation, we have all this agenda, and we have power trying to, you know, corrupt, you know, in every direction it can. And so that's a tough place to walk into and say, I represent the divine feminine spiritual authority, and this is partially because we've been driven inside on this stuff for so long, we don't remember how to even exercise those muscles. So let's begin. I'm going to pull a couple of cards in each direction. And again, I encourage you to sort of continue to feel your breath, like, you know, be aware of your breath as it comes in, and to take some deep breaths and just bring yourself into that state of divine feminine receptivity. And again, this has nothing to do with gender. This is going to be that like left energy, like sort of like when I always feel it on the one side of my body in a certain way. Let's see. Yeah, I want you to breathe into the energy of receptivity, and maybe even call in the energy of receptivity with all of the correct safeguards, meaning I set the intention that everybody is assisted and safeguarded now through this message as we move into it. I send our ascended allies to do this work for us. And so as we like move into this, there's no place like home, nestle into the sweetness. We have to, in order to sort of be the representation of the divine feminine aspect of God on earth, the way we have to do it is we have to discover it. It's been buried alive for a very long time. And we know that because of how hard it is for us to feel like our spiritual, like anything is valid. You know, the whole thing with Christianity and like monotheism and even like, you know, secular like atheism to a certain degree is check your intuition at the door. Check your intuition at the door. You can't have your intuition in here. You know what I mean? And so this notion of like, yeah, finding a spiritual center from within, when we've been getting instruction from outside for so long as being the de facto, what makes spirituality valid, it comes from an external source that validates it. And we're moving away from that because we've looked around and we've been like, no, there's definitely something missing, and it's for sure the divine feminine aspect of God in this world as being fully empowered and being able to like, and having that authority, you know, to enact that role and those roles. And so, you know, when we said Messiah and we said messenger, and each and every one of you is a messenger, you carry the message from that divine feminine part of you, and you know, that authority. And so, but we have this moment of like dual detective, you know, we have to find this in a shadow world of like voyeurism, which is not the same as connection, and falsifying information, which is not the same as truth. You know, so the tall order here is to actually be really aware of our bodies as a temple, like primarily for the purpose of exploring. Take a deep breath. That just felt like something. With the unknown is your friend, lean into, embrace what's next. There's a call to sort of embrace this process of, I want to find my mother. I want to know what she looks like. I want to know how she does or does not care about her children. We can look to nature as being very clear on how the mother operates through nature from mother to child and mother to child in every species. And it's different, and it's really interesting the way that like the earth expresses its mothering. And then something just distracted me. I'm gonna lower the music. 1 second. This is cool that it's Patreon and I can actually just be a little informal. I think I'm always informal. It's a de-facto condition. So with there's no place like home, which is where we start our detective search. We know that the external information that validates spirituality, this is disqualified. So now we're doing something completely radical, which is looking with the eyes of intuition, seeking from that sweetness within our own sense of like what we love, why we love it ferociously, and what it means to be in our power, what ignites our power, you know, and to sort of spend time with these different aspects of the goddesses, you know, that we can, you know, certainly there are through all of our lineages and our soul lineages, which have nothing to do with our body lineages, we have connections to deities, we have connections to angelic energies, we have these relationships with ascended masters. And to nestle into the sweetness, and there's no place like home, is to begin to connect with that part of yourself that feels that you too, you know, are a part of what it means to be there's no better way. Like, I just like saw the article that some of us are reading kind of flash before my eyes, and it's basically like, how can we begin to develop a relationship with a picture of divine feminine spiritual authority within ourselves, because that's the only place that we can start in order to sort of like have it be authentic and genuine and true. And it is unknown, but we are to want to be like curious, and almost like passionately curious. So yeah, let's see how we're doing. Okay, so let me keep going, because I do want to look at this voyeurizing, this false, and you know what it means to sort of brave a little bit. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just beginning to I don't know if we've gotten into this yet, but I hope we do one day. The practice of reverie. Reverie is really important. This is a dicey topic too, because I have to figure out how to properly voice it. Hold on, let me just give it a moment. I'm gonna let the divine energy sort of take this place. So when I say reverie, I mean like it's a prayerful space with the Empress. I love that. It's a prayerful space. It's a space where you allow yourself to sort of yearn with a sense that there is a divine energy that connects with your yearning with like compassion and care. It's a brave, bold move to be in yourself, you know, and find that space of authenticity with yourself, and then connect to the divine from this unknown. But also it's a felt intuition thing. So it's a practice, again, like, you know, that's why we're the making creativity spiritual is like connecting with creator energy, you know, incubation, creating, like this whole way in which that's working with the energies of mothering in a lot of different forms, you know. And then there's also sort of that divine masculine energies of inspiration that come, you know, and there's a really good influence of both, but we have to sort of be involved in this discovery within ourselves in order to begin to bring it in the world. And that's sort of where, starting at home, you know, nothing strenuous. Begin to dream up what this might look like as a form of prayer. Enter states of reverie, and have those states of reverie be dreaming up this future and dreaming up this version of yourself, and having that be prayer. The definition of prayer in a sort of way. It's and have your intention be to communicate with the divine. So that inspiration, that's channeling. Inspiration, that's channeling. And again, I said inspiration and divine masculine, but it's because I just see colors. You know what I mean? So these are just things that coalesce and operate within us. And so the conception, you know, takes place like in relationship to inspiration. And that act in and of itself is being with the divine feminine spiritual authority power. That's like it's in there somewhere, you know, in the act of creation itself. And so when we look at this Three of Pentacles as being, yeah, so we have the Empress and we have the Three of Pentacles here. And we also have the Page of Pentacles. Bottom of the deck, we have the Eight of Pentacles. Oof. Yikes. I kind of know what this is. Let me sit here with this for 1 second. There's been a lot of work done in terms of like what has been organized religion, what has been the spiritual structure that is upheld, absolutely without a doubt, by energies that are invested in, you know, holding it up. And when we consider the validity of our spirituality, we also have to consider the validity of spirituality. We have to consider what our spiritual influences are. You know, this unknown, lean into the embrace of what's new is to sort of go on an exploration, you know, spiritually with safeguards in place. And what I mean by safeguards in place, you have ascended allies that you should be calling on constantly, just all the time. Why not? No harm in it. I call on my ascended allies to be with me now, to see with me now, to lead me now. It's so simple. And like when you go to leave your house and you go like wallet, keys, phone, you know, and do, you know, ascended allies, be with me, see with me, inspire me, protect me. The same. So I want to encourage again, like that's like spiritual validity is actually practicing. This is valid. What I'm doing is valid. It's actually placing that like emphasis on it. And it might not feel too valid to begin with, but this is something that we don't have a muscle with, because the divine feminine as a spiritual authority was buried alive. And so we're using muscles that have been in a cast for so long that they're gonna feel a little bit like I'm doing it, you know, until they don't, you know, and that's kind of what we're talking about. But with this Eight of Pentacles speaks to just how much work went into creating this narrative and all of the narratives that serve what's the greater narrative, when you're powerless and where your intuition doesn't mean anything, where you have to defer to the strengths and the qualities of like a masculine form of God, and that there's no way to see yourself as holding, you know, a place like there's no goddess that looks like you. You know, there's no representation. Or if it's not looking like you, there isn't a divine feminine representation of God. So there is no respect for that divine feminine representation as God. And so like there's really been a lot of work to try and condition, to try and like destroy, to try and bury your sense of your own spiritual knowing. And having your spiritual knowing be valid, you know, having it be something that is operational, having it be something that serves you, you know, and has you create your life. So this Page of Pentacles says that the structures in place were meant to actually keep like a child, keep adults like children, you know, keep them in a structure of needing to be parentified. Like it's a really destructive place of fear of power. And at the same time, revere of power in a particular dogmatic like form. So we have to really pull these roots that have been growing for kind of a while with that Eight of Pentacles. There's been a lot of effort to this end out of our creative process, pulling the roots of patriarchy, the roots of we don't even remember the gods and goddesses of the land that our flesh was born from. Their names are erased. That's a lot. That was a lot of work that was done. And when you think about the things that the empire very specifically chose to include in their canonization of their instruction manual, that they were going to sort of make the colonialism, that was the impetus for this. They were very specific about the things that you're not allowed to do. And those specific things that you're not allowed to do, use any kind of divination. What does it say in the Bible? Like being involved with divination is 7 generations of curses. That should tell you that they don't like it for some reason. Because 7 generations of a curse for every time you have an experience of divination is a pretty ridiculous, nonsensical penalty that makes absolutely not a whit You know, because this is like reading a book, you know what I mean? It's a spiritual interpretation. Like, it's more than that, you know, it is divine. But when we think about how many witches were burned for creating what is called a witch's brew, and that is absolutely not threatening. And we know that standing over a pot and mixing things isn't threatening, because we also have making stew. So there's a very big reason why the divine feminine energy was left out of the story. And there's a very big reason why all the aspects of divine feminine magic and their manifestations are very expressly, in one way or another, forbidden. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't, like, you know, things in the Bible that are helpful in terms of guidelines about what sins and, you know, what aren't sins. But that's almost like the mask that covers a much darker something. Somewhere along the line, whatever this imbalance of power is, whenever it began, whatever was taking the power realized that women were a threat. Divine feminine, spiritual acumen and ability and creation given giftedness was a threat to the empire, and it was always a threat to the empire. So much so that there's been a lot of work that's been done. And so when we kind of begin this desire to seek out the truth, we do begin within, in the light attribute of the hermit. But then we make our way out into a world that is structured against our spiritual evolution. Structured against it, quite literally. Structured against it. Blind, you know, labyrinths, phobias. You know, even communicating with spirit, you know, is wrought with all of the unmanaged spiritual mayhem that comes with just cutting off the process of the integration of the dead into the next life and into the living, and, you know, back into, you know, it's about cycles. And so when we think about what it means to step back into the space, we know, we accept, we understand that we step back into a space that is it's in opposition to our growth. But that doesn't mean that we aren't a serious threat to it. And so let's look at what it means to be that serious threat to the establishment of a spirituality that leaves out divine feminine energy as a authority, as a power, as a counterbalance, as the feminine aspect of God in this world represented. That can then be like, then the women can be the representative of, men can be the representative of this divine feminine spirituality in the world. It's very obvious, and then it's confusing. You know, like it's so, you know, I listen to these messages after they come through, and, you know, some of these things come through and it's like, of course, that's like, nothing makes more sense in the whole wide world. Like, oh my God. But then, you know, you try to apply this wisdom and it gets really spooky and really weird, you know, to a certain extent, because it really does sort of paint a picture that says, like, it's sort of like Nemo in the Matrix, like looking around and being like, what is hooked up to me? Oh my God, where am I? I'm in like what is this? Is this a hive? Like, you know, so this is kind of this feeling that is part and parcel to what it means to go home, be like, find our way home to this Empress, to this divine feminine position. And we have Athena, wisdom. I love this right now because that's that 777. Let's just take this back. Spider Woman is this universal connection. So one of the first things that I think that, you know, we need to sort of consider when we are looking for the mother, and I want this to, you know, honestly, like, as this is coming through me, there's this real gravity around, if we want to title what this process is, it's looking for the mother. Where is the mother in this situation? Where is the mothering in this room? Where is the mothering in, you know, it's looking for what this universal connection, what connects every single one of us. Every single one of us has a mother. Maybe we don't know that mother, but there was an umbilical cord, and I never say that right. There's the cord, and then there's the belly, and we grew in it. So far, that's the only method into the world. So there is a universal connection, at least that we all came from a mother. And so, like, if we can start right there on our journey back home to what it is to be connected to this mother, and then through that connected to each other. That's where the journey kind of starts, sort of begins. And so we are called into this, you know, when we talk about, because I'm going to probably repeat this all the time. The divine feminine representing the divine feminine as a spiritual, you know, authority in the world, being that representation means, oh, that was like, I just got so overwhelmed that, like, let me just like catch that a little bit better. Yeah, connecting with, oh gosh, that's so weird. Whenever that happens, like I always, so I'm channeling, I'm like a little bit in like a little bit of a trance, and like when I'm right in the middle of it and then proof like I'm not, like it's very disorienting. So I don't know if you felt that, but you know, when we come through with this wisdom, with this Athena, the wisdom is within. The wisdom is accessible, and when we start by validating that we all come from a mother, that we're all connected through that one very like powerful aspect, and that our wisdom, that you know, so I'm seeing a fetus growing in a belly, and there's empress too. And so when we think about like as we grow in the womb of the mother, she is imbuing us with herself. The nutrients that she's giving us is her. And so when we recognize that how far are we from divinity, we're that close. We're so close to divinity that the essence that animates the life that we form from is her. So where do we find the validity of our spiritual authority? In this notion of we are that close to the creator. And I'm not talking about like your specific mother. I'm on that creation that we move through. The womb of the mother is the earth, you know, and then we come and we do our cycles and our cycles and our cycles, and the mother teaches through her cycles. The mother's language is cycles and symbols. And so that wisdom is already there. It's already within you. And so this honoring of your sacred connection to the divine, which is just as far away as your conception in one way or another. And that's has nothing to do with pregnancy. You know, that has to do with when your essence was born. You have an essence that feels different from somebody else's essence. That essence has a message. And we talked about the deities, and we talked about how each deity, what they represented, that they have different essences. And you too have an essence, and that essence is your messenger. You are the Messiah. You come with a message. How you express that message, the mother has like imbued that in your creative capacity. Practicing that creativity is going to sort of help with that's where we're connecting with the mother in that spirit of the mother. And so with this reinvention and this transcendence and this just, you know, sometimes the cards are like so good, I just have to like stop and have like we have this is so great. With reinvention being about this is a process. So, you know, the dreaming this up, this reverie, like dreaming of what this could look like, dreaming of what it once looked like, dreaming of how it looks like for you to hold this knowledge, this wisdom, and the validity, you know, therein. It's a bit of like when with reinvention, we don't have the original manual, and we have most of the pieces, and we have some clues, and then we have to do the work of reconnecting from within in order to sort of begin to sort through some of the Eight of Pentacles work that's been put into deceiving us and deceiving the world, frankly. So we're walking into a deception, but we're walking into a deception as a representation of the truth. And we don't know what that looks like, but this reinvention speaks of that creativity, that allowing the energy of mothering, the energy of the mother that you say, yeah, so Spirit is saying like part of the spiritual validity moment that we're having is like she's showing me the womb, and that you are conceived in the womb, and that what creates your essence is her. That's how close we are to the divinity of the divine feminine. It starts there. And so like when we're able to say, wait, the goddess is within me, absolutely. The goddess flows through me. The goddess is around me. The goddess shows me how she thinks and what she does by the world that she provides for me to move through and learn from. And to begin to reinvent what this concept of mothering and what this concept of the goddess even is sort of like, that's this creation and participating in creation. And so, you know, this transcendence and this resurrection, you know, this is what our little, like, and it's not a little, it's not a little call to action. But it's also not like I see a deer, a little deer. And so it's action that's gentle. You know, one of the things that I love about working with goddess energies is they have a way of being really, so I always work with like the very intense. I don't know why. I've like never worked with like an easy, like, well, I guess Mary Magdalene was very like a very like loving kind of an energy. But I usually have like, like the intense, energies, but they never beat me up. The mother never beats her kids up in order to get a lesson through. It's a much more, you know, that's being handled with love in a way that like only, like that's the nature of it. And so when we work with the goddess, you know, to uncover this wisdom within, when we begin this creative interaction with her. Yeah, so like when in the same way that the mother inspires like the conception, the mother inspires the conception. The egg receives the impulse, and that essence is born of it. But it's the energy of the mother that wanted you to exist. You know, it's like we're taught this through Jesus as the female representation of God. Or like the Holy Spirit, you know, but the truth of the matter is this was always the wisdom of the mother. That we are this close, that we are that loved, that we are infinitely cared for, and that we are not abandoned or orphaned, has always been the wisdom of the mother. And the evidence is everywhere. And so when we think about divine feminine spiritual authority in this world, the wisdom of the mother is within. As like, this is almost like a, how do we value life? How do we properly value life? It's divinity. It's divinity like animated. and then we're kind of, you know, we're essences with this heart chakra being such, the mother is like, that we are loved is undeniable, that we can even conceive of what it means to accept that love and not have all kinds of conditions attached to it. That's going to take time and that's going to take work. But engaging with the heart, engaging with this concept that says, I am loved, I am taken care of, I am valued. The mother wanted my essence to be born, to be conceived, to be created. It was her wish that made me. At a very fundamental level, there's no other explanation. And nature echoes this. And the womb that is carried, you know, that carries like the whole process of gestation and birth, like echoes this. It's like resounding from like every mountaintop. You are valued. Your nurture is built in. Your world is for you. What's animating you loves you. What's animating you is aware of you. And don't let that message be co-opted by a religion that tells you that you're not good enough, that your connection with your mother isn't good enough, that your spiritual sovereignty needs something, that you're not born with it intact. That's bananas cuckoo crazy. And so, like, you know, when we reconnect with this heart chakra and begin to allow the mother to express through us in co-creation, through the act of creativity and honoring our creativity, which the mother gave us to find her with over and over and over again whenever we had a need. Whenever we had a need, she gave us this creativity to answer that need and participating in the act of creativity and creation. And that's mothering, believe me, is this stepping back into the sovereignty of the divine feminine authority and then being able to represent it. So it's a process of getting to know her through, you know, through a place that says that she wants to know you. that she takes all different forms. And the one that's most comfortable for you is the one that she's going to work with, because that's how much a mother loves her child. You know, I just got hit with this notion of like, some of you are moms, right? And so something just hit me really, really hard. I'm going to say it. Those of you that aren't moms, I'm sure you're very maternal, you know, and even if you're men, you're maternal, because we're really connecting with this energy so heavily in all of these readings that like, this is an energy that we flow with. And this is an energy that's sort of, you know, so I was connecting with this notion of mothering and the mother, and that the mother provides, and that it's obvious. It's all around us. It's within us in a very profound way. That mothering instinct that cannot be denied is the essence of our Creator. I saw children being taken from their mother and being sent to a foreign place and being raised by foreign people. And then that mother is reintroduced to them several years later, and they don't remember her at all. But she is permitted to be around them, so long as she doesn't say very specifically that she's their mother. So she's willing to take any role. She's willing to take any face. She's willing to take any form to care for her children. So if you don't think you are cared about, the fact that there are so many faces of God speaks to how much the mother can and will reach her children through any means necessary. And that doesn't invalidate any aspect of divine feminine essence in its many forms, in its many manifestations, coming from her creativity. And we aren't orphans. We also have siblings, and we have elders. We have older gods and goddesses. Like there's this beautiful chain of creation and love, and creation and love, and it goes all the way. And it has every different aspect and for like, it's beautiful. Again, back to the kaleidoscope, you know, so there's nothing invalid about interacting with the divine feminine spiritual authority in any goddess, because it's going to teach you about the mother. It's going to teach you about the essence that we're born of. And it's going to teach you about creation and creativity, and that she's with you in that creativity. So we're taking this really interesting route around like this new kind of a notion of prayer a little bit, and what it means to co-create with our mother is to find her. We are not orphaned. I think that's this beautiful aspect. Weird is the new cool. Boldly express your uniqueness. And the unknown is your friend. So we're coming back to the unknown is your friend. So I kind of I like everything that I'm seeing here, because tripod. We have, when I see weird is the new cool, I see this as being every individual essence has some message for the world that is of incredible importance and value, because your essence was created for the purpose of having a mode of expression, a voice that adds something to the chorus of creation. It's the validity of your spirituality is planted right there in the space where there's no other essence, and and so like I want to just kind of, sometimes like I'll get a lot of information and I'll try to bring it through like succinctly, and it sometimes misses a little bit. We do have individual essence, and that's sort of what it means to, when we work with like different deities, and we start to do like spiritual work with different essences, it becomes easier and easier for us to identify ourselves as an essence. Some souls are born individually, and some souls are born in clusters, but nothing is diluted. And so when we think about like what it means to boldly express what makes you unique, even in the clusters, there's unique aspects of every essence. Just like there's a different face for different goddesses of the same essence, like the different goddesses of love all carry that same essence. So your essence is something that like connects you to your purpose, your sense of self, your sense of being of infinite value, your sense of eternity. And to be able to express that, to be that an expression, there is a message, there's part of your expression, however it comes out. When I say message, I don't mean like just words. Some of you, it's mothering. Some of you, it's a mode of expression where you take the energy of creation, you know, into the process of making something profound. Even if that creative process is your life being your art. That's very, very powerful. That's high priestess stuff right there. And so weird is the new cool. Boldly express your uniqueness means that you being uniquely spiritually valid in a world that is constructed against that very thing so comprehensively that we can't even see through this at all. It means that it's going to be a little bit of a process, you know. So we have here, stand up and be recognized, and behold, you are the inspiration you've been looking for. We have weird is the new cool, and we have the unknown is your friend. Lean into the embrace of what's next. It's something that we have to sort of like piece together, you know, through our willingness to give. Let me just sit with this. There's something that's trying to come through that I'm getting a little bit lost with. Yeah, so basically saying that, like, you know, the goddess tells her children, you too are created to someday, you know, be your own spiritual authority and your own God, you know, to say that gods and goddesses, like, where do you think we grow into? What do we grow into? We started in the womb. The earth is another womb. Each time we leave one womb, we are birthed into something else. And we're growing in a trajectory, and we already know what the template looks like. And so the mother empowers her children to be as powerful as she is. Who would want their children not to be as powerful or not more powerful? When we think about mothering and when it is to who is the mother, what aspect of God is the mother? It's the aspect of God that wants their children to be more powerful, not less. Because every mother wants her children to be more powerful, not less. And that's doing something subversive. You know, it's doing something extremely subversive, because at a fundamental level, even within our own selves, we can be so rooted in our knowing and our knowledge of our spiritual experiences and still have an internal force of invalidation that pops up over and over and over again. That's conditioning. When you realize how important you are, how valued you are, how loved you are, how needed you are, and how your trajectory it goes up and doesn't stop. That your magnificence is established. That you already exist as an infinite essence. These are like our starting points. What we do with that is we bring something into the world that it has to be reinvented. It's reinvention because it's a participation of co-creation. You know, the energy of the goddess is almost saying to me, she's kind of showing me this notion of all of the temples. I'm seeing all the temples being torn down, and just the gravity of what it means. Like, she's showing me a baby being ripped from its mother's arms. Very, very clearly, she's showing me that. The temples may be demolished, but the opportunity and what it means to resurrect this energy, to be this representation on earth, to stand and holding this energy, there is this aspect of co-creation and reinvention. It's participatory. Because when we think, again, just keep on connecting with mothering. What mother wants a replica? Every mother wants their child to be their own unique, amazing, and to have none of that compromised. And so what we bring forth in the way of like a new vision of what it means to be the divine feminine aspect of God represented on earth, it's something that we're discovering. And then as we create meaning into that discovery, it's something that we're inventing as well. And it's the invention of a worldview. And so that the unknown is your friend means don't be afraid. And we have this transcendence and everything. Don't be afraid of these what it means to interact with your own power. And sometimes interacting with your power means being challenged by the power of something else. That's always going to come up. And again, we can look, I always am going to encourage you over and over again through this process as we're learning together and growing together in this way, to constantly be reverting back to like mothering and this notion of, you know, the toddler. The toddler has to learn what to do with power. And how does a mother who loves their child negotiate this? It's not a chaotic free-for-all. It's a, how can we refine your use of your authority, your use of your power? And so the fact that we don't know, like there's nothing wrong with that. The fact that we don't know how to approach goddess worship or divine feminine, you know, spiritual authority, the fact that we don't know what it means to practice that kind of orientation towards God, the fact that we can't see ourselves in it as valid. This is just because of this all of this unknown, and the mother saying there's so much there for you to work with, you know, connecting with your essence and then expressing from that essence with me as like what gave that essence life. Bringing that into the world is just a start. It's a trickle. And we transcend through this unknown. And every toddler comes into the world with a lot of, not toddler, you know, when a baby becomes a toddler, there's a lot of power and there's a lot of unknown. And so we're kind of invited into the unknown with the knowledge that the mother, she's not that far off. We don't have to be terrified of the powers that come against our power. We have to, and that's going to be very hard to do because it's going to be having faith in something that hasn't even come into form in any meaningful way yet, because it's been buried and we can't see it. It's sort of arising. We're getting pieces and pictures, and it's like the meditation where you're having the visualization and you keep on jumping out. It's real and it isn't, right? And so the Divine Mother invites us back into it's real, and it's more obvious than a divine masculine aspect of God making itself known in the world. The mothering of every aspect of nature, it makes itself known. And there is authority in what makes itself known. And so I want to get a couple more cards because we're almost at that moment when we begin to, yeah, this resurrection here. Oh my gosh, look how beautiful. This is a resurrection that comes from within. And what that resurrection that comes from within brings out is your creative expression. And that creative expression is the message. It's the Messiah for the world. And we hold each other up as a net, equally important, equally unique, equally valuable, all with something to contribute. As like a baseline on what it means to be able to conceive and see and validate a female representation of God in the world. Blessings. Blessings and thriving. Oh my gosh. This is beautiful. This is so beautiful. And so, you know, when we think about the fact that, you know, yes, it's the temples have been demolished, but no, they did not demolish the instinct of what it means to mother. And that instinct, it comes from that source of creation that we came from. What we're getting in the way, the divine feminine aspect of God, the goddess, that's the goddess. You see how it's hard to sort of shift between divine feminine aspect of God, where God is here and there's just a divine feminine aspect, so it's somehow kind of okay, to the goddess. It's tough to have that validity. So, but the blessing in that is such immense thriving, because when you have a mother that loves you, that created you, that wanted you to come into this world so that she could participate in your becoming this unique expression, so that that unique expression could give to the world, be strong, be amazing. Working with the divine feminine goddess is to it's thriving. And it's having a whole different experience. And so what does it mean to represent the divine feminine? Is to thrive. That's what it means. And to thrive in all environments. In all environments, the mothering of nature makes do. Oh my gosh, the Queen and the empty box. You know, this has been what we know of the goddess for a really long time. Mythological, fairy tales. That's it. That's it. And to the extent that we've been, you know, begun to sort of learn what it means to interact with that energy again, it's fraught with fear and it's fraught with opposition. But the relationship that we can forge with the goddess is no joke. It's nothing small, and it's nothing, it will have an impact on your external life. Because the mother's will for you, like all mothers will for their child, and I don't want to burn that, is that they thrive. And so with that, we're going to sort of enter into, last time we ended with a prayer. I like that. Maybe people think it's cringe. I don't know. But I like doing it because, again, like, you know, when I think about colonialism, when I think about like just the ravages of hierarchy in one, however it chose to express its supremacy, you know, all of what that did, you know, some of our religious technology that we know and that we are used to and that works was stolen by a dogma that it doesn't belong with any more than, you know, it's called, you know, all the cultural appropriation that went into a new religion is it's everything, you know what I mean? And what they left out is what they found threatening, which was the female aspect. And the goddess was the only thing that's going to put this in check, you know? And so when we use this notion of prayer, you know, it's a little different, you know, because it's you're invited to dream a little bit, to create into the space, to be in spaces of creative dreaming and reverie. It is to connect with the mother and her guidance and her love in a really profound way. And so when we use this technology of prayer to sort of close this out, it's because it's our technology, thank you very much, and we're going to take it back. It's what was developed spiritually through generations of all peoples in one way or another. And we're going to use this to communicate with the goddess. We're going to have a prayer with the goddess. And I like doing it with divination because she's in co-creation. She is right here. That's how close she is. Gaia. Let's get a couple more cards. I really love when the cards like pretty much sing. Okay. Bottom of the deck is Cosmic Flower. And I'm told to shuffle this as well, so I'm going to just do that. Because the Eight of Pentacles, work that has been done to condition us away from ourselves and away from our mother with this Emperor card here, that's a lot of work. But you know what? Four of Wands, it's over. It's completed. We're done. We're celebrating. We're coming into union. And the Emperor no more. We're going to heal with this Four of Swords. That's going to be a little bit of a process. But with the Two of Cups, like this balancing out is here. So let's do our prayer. You can, and all you have to do with the, you know, again, it's like, oh, it's technology that we're familiar with a twist. So, you know, the kind of magic of it is just in agreeing, just in agreeing. You know, when all of our heads are sort of in agreement, it creates, like on quantum level, a sort of tangible kind of a thing. So if we agree, then that's sort of, I think, how it'll work. And you can listen to it first before you agree with it. That's always cool. And, okay, let me have some water. I just like totally like forgot how to do this. So I'm just gonna sort of like plug back in for a second. Yeah, I'm just pulling in that energy of the mother. So as we pray to the goddess, validly, as her ears like can hear, she is close. We pray that our mother would remind us that we are infinitely connected to one another, just as we are to our great mother and to the universe that birthed us all. May we be reminded that the orange flower of life supports our ability to flow with our desires and stimulates our creative power to manifest success and abundance in our lives, that we might thrive. Let us have the realization that supports the internal process of becoming aware of our heart-centered truth, as well as the external process of becoming our highest expression in this world. And may we be rooted, calling in the frequency of the root chakra, the red flower of life, to stimulate our passion, support our sense of security on this physical plane, both in our bodies as well as our physical world. And with that, we call in this frequency of cosmic flower to activate our remembrance of the place we call home, the core from which we pour our magnificence out into the world. Let us now leave this knowing that we are not orphans and that we were not forgotten by what created us, and that our mother is close, and that with her we can thrive. And what that thriving looks like, it does not look like excess. It does not look like hoarding. It does not look like misuse of power. So we have to learn. We have to be detectives. We have to connect from within and express. And that's sort of going to be a little bit different for everyone. But as we leave this empty room and step into our power and our divinity, and I don't even want to say the A-M-E. I want to say a different closing to the prayer, because I was about to kind of give it a traditional, and the goddess was like, no. In the name of the mother, in the name of the daughter, in the name of that which is holy within me, and that which is holy without. So mote it be, and so it is. So that's the ending. So everything's channeled, you know, so that's really cool. And we never even used this deck. And so with the crown on the spirituality, I didn't even shuffle it. So I don't know if that was there. But not, you know, there's nothing that's an accident. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you again next Sunday. Feel free to comment. There's so few. I love this little group. I love little group. Little group is good, but I'm going to, at some point, like, you know, make this not such a little group. I see like the trajectory of this. I've been able to see it, and it's intimidating. So I'm not rushing. So while it's little, let's really just cherish this time together. You know, if you have any sort of comments or questions, and put them down below, they will absolutely get answered. This is going to be fun. I'm really glad you guys are here with me. All right, I'm going to close this, and I'll see you again soon.